No, I would suggest bringing it. Just so there's another person in the chat, you know?
Okay, yeah. So we had a lost person in the general meeting with me, Carmen Valori. I'm like, why aren't we seeing her over here? Yeah, so we need room for Sam. Yeah,
Would that be moved?
no, but she can stay. So Colin, once you do your introduction, I mean, you should maybe move over there and she can have that seat so she can be right onto the camera, okay?
Oh yeah, because you're on the camera.
Yeah, grab a chair.
At the bottom right.
Do you on your laptops? Well, anybody can, I mean, no, you don't all need laptops, but one good reason to be on there with your laptop is that you could
You can ask questions.
put questions into the chat.
Right.
All right, but everybody needs to mute their microphones, right? Because if your microphones aren't muted, except you. No, because we're operating off the microphone on that, and if your microphone isn't, hi, Dr. Bellaria. If your microphone isn't muted, it's gonna bounce all over the place. So, oh. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mentoring Mondays. My name is Marianne Mahoney, and I'm the director of the Latin American, Latino, and Caribbean Center. And it is my pleasure to introduce Colin Fontenelle, who's going to begin our proceedings today. Colin.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Speaking here with us today is Sami Rodriguez. Just a bit about her is that she is a coach at the Learning Center and is part of our counseling education graduate program here at CCSU, as well as a Nantucket resident. And today she is going to be speaking with us about time management. So please give her a warm welcome and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I'm sorry for my rushness. I was teaching a class.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Can I leave my coat here?
Yeah, you can.
Thank you. Awesome. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Even on the computer?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're also being broadcasted in the bottom part.
Awesome, cool. Okay. So I am from the Learning Center. I'm an academic coach there. I am a grad student at CCSU as well. So I did my undergrad up at UConn. Then I came here to get my master's in counseling education. and now I'm in my last semester. I graduate in May, which is very exciting. And I have a bunch of resources for us today to talk about time management, how to set up your semester, start off strong, feel organized, feel good. And I think that is the gist of it. If you don't mind sharing, can I just hear your guys' names, majors, if you work here, what your role is?
I can start.
Yeah.
So my name is Andrew Senaronda, and I will be graduating hopefully fall.
Yay.
Yeah, so next year or next semester. And I am a CS major.
Okay.
And I do work here. Usually what I do is whenever we have like big events. So like last year we had the mural over in the student center, and I usually just do like itineraries, just do like receptionist. We all take turns to do receptionist. That's just kind of my duties around here. And also I major in computer science.
Yep. Awesome. Cool.
I can go next. My name's Jacob. I'm a history education major. Not exactly sure what I do around here because I just started the semester, so I'm pretty new.
Nice.
I know Dr. Mahoney talked to me about setting up like a reading list of like resources for
Cool.
information about like Latin American countries, stuff like that.
Awesome.
So I'm Katie. I'm actually in the counselor education program too.
Oh, no
but it's
way.
it's my first year. So
Yay.
I did my undergrad at Siena and then I'm getting my master's here. So
Very exciting. Wait, that's so cool. We're in the same program. Nice. Hello.
Hi.
Familiar face.
I'm a civil engineering major, and usually what I do around here is kind of marketing. So let's say we have an event that's coming up. I will just go around, make sure there's like flyers and everything, make sure everybody knows what's going on. And if anything, we take turns, like he said, at the receptionist desk.
Cool.
My name is Colin. I'm a computer engineering technology major. I work here, and what I mainly do is I help with the flyers, the QR codes, making sure the links work.
Mhm.
I also help with the cataloging of the books on occasion, marketing by hand out flyers, and all that.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah, my name is Andres Rivera. I'm director for TRIO-SSS here at the university,
Oh,
and I'm
awesome.
here in support of Dr. Mahoney and her efforts in the LALCC side.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so for this presentation, it's really kind of casual. I do have a bunch of resources that we're going to go through. I'm going to start you off with my favorite one. I brought a lot of copies, so we'll have a lot to keep. And then for anyone virtual, I'm going to send all of these for Dr. Mahoney so that she can send out like documents for them. But if you all want to take one and pass it around, I gave a bunch, I'm sorry. Okay, so what everyone just got is probably my favorite resource personally, not to play favorites. But this is a really great start for your semester of where to begin and how to really, just like the foundations for the time management skills that we kind of want to work on in our time here at CCSU. So if you look at it, it is all the important university dates, all of the information of like when you should start registering for summer classes, spring classes, last day to withdraw, all that fun stuff. And then if you flip it on the back, it does have some important campus resources, just like their offices, numbers, locations, etc. I really like to focus on the front portion, and I always encourage students to gather all of their syllabi for all of their classes. So you'll typically get them on the first day of class, second day of class, whatever it is, and the professor will go through it with you, and you'll get all of those assignment dates and exam dates, right? So you'll figure out when the first exam is going to come up, when you'll have your first paper due, your second paper, all the fun due dates. And I encourage students to download all of their syllabus to a desktop or a laptop first so that you have them all in one place. but then to go through the syllabus for each of your classes and start plugging in all of those dates. So plug in that your first math exam is February 7th, and plug in that on February 9th you have a writing paper due, and all of those assignments, because this is a really good way to see your whole entire semester and everything that you're going to be expected to complete on one sheet of paper. I even encourage students to fill in if they have a weekly discussion board post for a class, like that's due every Sunday night. Might as well just plug that in on Sunday just so that you are aware of it and you're staying on top of it. I fill this out for myself and I share that with students too, just because like it's a resource that I love and really helps for me. And it's a good way to see when your really busy and crazy weeks are going to be, right? And to know, okay, when I have 2 exams and 2 papers due in 1 week, I should really start prepping for that a week or 2 in advance. And I should be taking some time to start prepping when I should start studying for this exam, how I should start studying for this exam, and all of that stuff. I think that's all the fun stuff about the semester at a glance. I also encourage students to take a picture of it too, just because not a lot of people are like hard copy paper people. So we all have our phones on us and we all carry those around. So I just encourage students to take a picture of it and always check it, just so that you're not having any surprises and anything catching you off guard. Okay. Do we hate this one or do we like this one?
Good.
This is my favorite one personally. Okay. For a time management resource, let's see. We have a few. I'm gonna take one. For some more time management stuff, a lot of times the transition from high school to college can be really wild for some students, in the sense that you are in high school from like 7 a.m. until 2 p.m. typically, and you are in class with the teacher in the room, very direct work, and you are just there, and that's your time to do work. And then you get to college and you have a class from like 9:30 to 10:30, and then you have an hour gap to just go do whatever you want, and then another class from 1 to 2, and then you have more time to just go grab food or whatever it may be. So you have this much bigger sense of independence and time where you can figure out how you want to spend it. And so this is a really cool resource to figure out where your time is actually going, right? So I always encourage students to fill this out with not only just like class stuff and work stuff, but even just life stuff that you typically do, right? So this is half-hour increments of every single day, and it goes from 4:30 a.m. all the way to 5 a.m. So it's your whole entire day. I encourage students to put in what times you're typically going to sleep at, what times you're typically waking up at, how long are you spending at the dining hall with your friends, how long are you spending watching videos on your phone or watching Netflix, like where is your time going? And once you can fill this out, it gives you a really good sense of when your gaps are, right? So if you're able to see that on every Tuesday and Thursday, you're free from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m., and typically you just go back to your dorm and take a nap or whatever it may be. Instead of just taking a nap, incorporating time that is dedicated to studying or to doing schoolwork outside of class, and just utilizing that as basically your own study hall and your own scheduled time to do work, can really help you get into that routine of just making it a habit. And instead of you like postponing and procrastinating or trying to do work super late the night before class, you're just working it into your normal schedule and kind of treating your time here at school as a job in a way, right? So you can just treat it as you get into your first class at maybe like 9:30 a.m. and then you're just doing schoolwork the whole day, and in between your gaps, and you're taking advantage of the time that you're here on campus. So this is really helpful for me too. I will fill this out. Typically, I'll just do it once at the beginning of my semester, just like I said, to see when those gaps are and to see when I'm most free. And then if I notice like, okay, every Wednesday morning, I have a bunch of time to just do stuff on my own. I just work that into my schedule of like, okay, Wednesday mornings are my schoolwork time. That's when I'll start all my assignments and make sure that I'm keeping up with it. Questions about this? Cool. Okay. I'm sorry, I'm throwing a lot at you. Okay. This is the last resource that I have. Yep. Everyone get one?
I got one, yeah.
Okay, cool. So this is another resource we have. This is the weekly study plan. This is another good way to break down what you have going on in your semester and in your classes. So you can see on the left column, it has, you would fill in all the classes that you're in, and then you would put in what the assignments are that you have coming up. So if you have a paper, a presentation, an essay, whatever it may be, you would fill that in. And then my biggest thing with this is to create start dates, right? So we're very always focused on due dates and when something is due, and we'll really procrastinate with that. But if we can focus on when we should be starting an exam, that would be really helpful.
I personally use this.
Yeah?
Yeah, Dr. Mahoney, she gave it to me at the beginning of the semester. So I used it last week, and I like this one the most. Out of all three. Yeah.
Interesting.
I just think it gives me like, for me, just looking at, because this one is helpful knowing what the semester is going to be like, but then for me, I have trouble with the weekly studying, like when to start. So then I really like the second column, days of the week, where we could put all our information.
Yeah.
So I think that just like seeing what I have to do and then being able to space it out throughout the week gives me like kind of a head start on what I need to do. It just really, using it last week really helped me organize what I needed to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then looking back at it, I'm like, oh, crap, like I didn't get to do this. So then I just fill it into my other one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think this one's actually really nice.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I really like using this personally for exams especially, and like how I would break down studying for an exam, because a lot of the times we think that if we study a day or two before the exam we'll be good to go, but realistically we need at least 5 days to really prep for it. And so I'll use this weekly study plan to kind of break down how I would want to go about studying for this. So I would break it up into chapters of like what we would be covering on an exam. And I would have on Saturday, I'm going to start by looking over chapter 1 and taking notes for that. And then Sunday, I'm going to work on chapter 2, take my notes for that, review, have someone quiz me, and then I'm going to review chapter 1. And then just building off of that and chunking the material into chapters instead of saying like, okay, on Saturday, I'm going to study chapters 1 through 5. And then on Sunday, I'm going to study chapters 1 through 5 and so forth. This can give you a really good way to sort of break up the material and not feel too overwhelmed by it too. I think it can be really intimidating when you're like reading or trying to study for something all at once and it's way too much. But yeah, so these are my staples. In an ideal world, it would be really great if a student can have their semester at a glance all filled out and prepped for their semester, and then they can see that in a few weeks they're going to have an exam and a paper due, and then they can fill out a weekly study plan for that week of how they would break up that material and when they would start studying for that exam and when they would start making their outline, and like maybe if they are going to go to the writing center one of those days and sort of breaking it up like that. Okay, those are my main 3 resources for time management that we have at the Learning Center. Do we have any questions about that? Yeah.
Well, I know for history, we have generally like a lot of papers to do, and a lot of them are like semester-long papers, where they'll be due at the end of the semester but assigned in the beginning. So like, how would you recommend chunking that throughout the semester so it's not just like, I have 15 pages to type tomorrow at the end?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think with that, when it's something that's going through the span of the semester and there's not really concrete dates that the professor is giving you, that can be a little challenging and take a lot of self-accountability of trying to plan stuff for yourself. So I think giving yourself due dates and maybe even following up with the professor and having the professor kind of hold you a little accountable of like when you want to get a certain portion of it done can be a really good way to break it up so that you're not cramming the night before and trying to write 15 pages. So setting mini due dates and then having someone who can kind of hold you accountable, I think would be really helpful, and checking in. And then obviously the Writing Center too, I think that's a resource that some students aren't super familiar with or take full advantage of, but having someone use that would be awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.
I also have a question.
Yep.
So, last semester, or like semester before, I wouldn't really have like a printed out like weekly study plan
Mm-hmm.
or time diary. What I would do is I would usually go on like free college schedule maker
Mm-hmm.
and I could fill in everything there. But have you noticed like if there's a difference between having like a physical copy and writing it down instead of putting it into the computer and keeping it on your computer? Have you noticed that like you like if people come in and they start using one of these like
Mhm.
a physical copy, does that help them better? I know it's case by case.
Yes, okay. I personally, I battle with this because I am a big fan of hard copy, printed out. I think there's something very satisfying and helpful to like cross out an assignment once you've done it. I think that is very like somehow subconsciously helpful, but I do think it is what personally works best for students, and I think it really depends on them trying it out. And I also think that we can change too, right? Like I think we can change our styles of what works best for us. So I was originally a very big Google Calendar person. I would have it on my phone. I would have all the info on that. I would keep myself organized through there. And then I was like, okay, but I want to spend less time on electronics personally. I want to kind of decrease my screen time and not be really using that. And so having like a planner where I handwrite in it is just a little more, it just feels more organized to me. But I do think it is case by case.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other questions?
What about for the math courses? Because I know personally for me during Calculus 1,
Mm-hmm.
after every class, homework was posted. However, sometimes it's due the same week, sometimes it's due the week after. How do you really gauge that? Because most of it, of the homework was online, sometimes textbook
Mm-hmm.
is able to come back.
Yeah.
So what would you recommend for students with several math courses with varying assignments here and there?
Yeah. I think with having assignments that are due at various dates, I think the importance of knowing when they're due is going to be really crucial. And then having that dedicated time, like I said, weekly, where it's just designated for you to be doing work outside of class would be really helpful. So if you have twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays that you take 2 hours out of the day to be doing assignments that are due on Blackboard or on like my math lab or whatever, I think that would be really helpful to use that as a way to check in, make sure you're submitting those and checking that you're not behind and missing any of them on those designated Tuesdays and Thursdays that you have for it. And also going off that with math too, I get a lot of questions of students who don't really know how to study for math because what are you supposed to do with that? I think one of the major things with math is not getting behind, which sounds obvious because you obviously don't want to get behind in any of your classes, but you want to be doing maintenance with math, right? Like you want to be going to tutoring before you are completely lost and before you are feeling like you no longer know what the professor is writing down anymore and it doesn't make any sense. And so working in some maintenance type of strategies into your schedule of maybe going to math tutoring weekly just to upkeep and just to maintain that would be really helpful, just so that you're practicing it and staying familiar, because with math it is a lot of practice and repetition and seeing those different examples compared to just reading a textbook and taking notes. Other questions?
For someone who is transitioning from high school to college, do you think it would be helpful to like set up a one-on-one with an academic coach and just like map that out for the semester so you don't like fall behind and go on academic probation if something were to happen?
Yes, and I think I came in here in a fluster. I don't even think I said what the Learning Center does, did I? I don't think I did. I think that would be so important for an incoming student to do. I think the adjustment from high school into college is a very big transition, and then you throw code into the mix and online classes and in-person classes and all these new rules and regulations and things along that line, and students don't really know what to expect or what to do. So a lot of the times I'll have students who explain that they don't even know like what Blackboard is or how to use it or how to log on to it. Or they explain that like they didn't really know how important it was to go to class. Like they didn't know that they were supposed to be going and that it would affect their grades the way it was. Just little things that aren't really told straight out to you is something that working with a coach I think would help you get aware of. So let me talk about what the Learning Center does really quick. So we do academic coaching. So I'm an academic coach, like I said. Any student is able to meet with a coach, whether you're on probation, whether you have a 4.0 GPA. And meeting with a coach is just a really good opportunity to just work with someone, help you set semester goals, help you prioritize your schoolwork, discuss some studying strategies that you might not be aware of, and work through how you best learn and how to be the best version of a student for yourself and to get the grades that you really want. And so that's an option. We have academic coaching where you would meet one-on-one. We also offer tutoring at the Learning Center too. For most of the subjects, there's a few departments that have their own tutoring. We do workshops and presentations, which is like what this is. And then we also do placement testing too. So any like first year students that are trying to get into a writing or a math would come into there. But yeah, other questions?
Yeah, I just want to clarify. So you don't need to be on academic probation. We just meet with you guys whenever?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. I think too that is sometimes a misconception where you assume that, oh, you only meet with a coach if you're on probation, but that's not the case. And so I have plenty of students that just want to have someone check in with them on their classes and follow up and hear how their classes are going and maybe discuss some better studying strategies that they might not have learned themselves or they want to explore some more. So yeah, I always encourage students to go.
I actually have another question.
Yeah.
So I know sometimes students, they don't like necessarily studying in the library or in their dorm per se.
Mm-hmm.
So if I go to Learning Center, would you be able to tell me like any good study places on campus?
Ooh, okay.
I know that's kind of like far away from the Learning Center, but like I was wondering.
Okay, so in my undergrad, I would have a favorite studying space every year though. It would change every year. So like my first year, my go-to space was like the lounge in my dorm because I loved the idea that like I was in a different space than in my bedroom, but I could still go back upstairs if I needed to, I wasn't like a walk outside away. For me personally, I am obviously very comfortable with Willard de Loretto Hall because that's where my office is. So any space there is very nice to me. But I think it is really dependent on the student and just exploring and just finding places on campus that you want to try out, taking a seat, getting all your stuff set up, and then just seeing if you like the vibe and you like where you're at. I would go back and forth between if I preferred being in like our student center, which was like really kind of loud and I could kind of tune it out and just hone in on my work, versus being in the library on like a really quiet floor where everyone's just very focused and tuned in. So I think it's all about trial and error, which I think is also pretty similar with like how you best study too. It really is on a trial and error basis of figuring out what works for you.
Would you know that if we're allowed to go into any open, free, the classroom? Because I know on the second floor is kind of a conference room, but it's always empty and the door's open. Now, like, I'm just curious as to.
I am not sure.
Okay.
I don't think there's any harm in going in there and studying if it's a free space, because I think if someone were to come in because they're teaching or hosting something, they would just let you know. And I don't see anyone getting like upset or annoyed.
Okay.
So that could be an option.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But I have one last question.
Okay.
What time does like Lodi Loretto close? Like the whole, like the building, does it close?
I don't know if the building I would assume the building itself
Because
gets
I know
locked.
services close at or end at 5, right?
So technically our office will have coaches there until sometimes 7 p.m. on Mondays through Thursdays, and then until 5 on Fridays. And then we do have coaches in on Sundays as well.
Oh, okay.
So we have time to meet with the coach on a Sunday if that works better. But as far as like the actual building itself being locked, I have no idea.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions? Okay. Okay, cool. I think I covered all of the main resources that we have. Obviously, if you're interested in meeting with a coach one-on-one, I highly encourage it. They'll probably show you a bunch of these resources, but we have a ton more. We also have like some assessments that you can take and some quizzes to kind of see where you're at in regards to your own time management skills, your studying abilities, and just a lot of other things that you can explore with your coach if you're interested. What else? I'm gonna leave my name and contact info here just so that you guys have all of that. I also have a PowerPoint that I will probably share with Dr. Mahoney so that she can send to you guys too, just so that you just can look back on that. And I think that's it, unless you guys have any other questions or concerns for me.
Does the learning center have, let's say, tutors for the different language courses? For example, there's someone that's doing Polish, someone that's doing Russian or Italian.
They don't, unfortunately. But it's something that I should run by them because I think it would be helpful. Typically, we have tutors for like math, chemistry, I'm blanking on all the others. There's a whole list. If you type in like the Learning Center CCSU, there's a whole list of all the subjects that we offer. Yeah.
Do you know if there's anyone on campus that does do that, like language coaching?
I'm not too sure. But the biggest thing that I always suggest is if you're ever in a class and you are struggling and looking for tutoring and you can't find it, I think that's when your professor comes into play and taking advantage of going to office hours and meeting with them, because they're essentially a tutor, they're a resource, and they are going to know how to teach you something and make sure that you're fully understanding it. So yeah, office hours are something that I always encourage the students. I think they can seem really scary and intimidating at first. It took me until like I want to say the end of my sophomore year or junior year to finally step foot into my professor's office hours. And then when I finally did, it was the biggest resource ever. And I just walked out of there feeling so much more confident in the class. But yeah. Other questions?
I have another question.
Okay.
So there's like a learning center. I don't know if it's called learning center, but there's like a center for studying in Copernicus.
Uh-huh.
Are you guys like connected? Do you guys work together, or is that strictly for like STEM? The school is STEM.
I am going to say that we're not connected just because I haven't heard of them.
Okay. Well, I just used to be engineering, so I would always like be up there.
I would say, I'm going to assume that. I know that our office used to be located, and I thought it was located in Copernicus, so maybe that's like what you're seeing is like,
Okay.
I have no idea though, to be honest.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Feel good? Okay, cool. I highly encourage you guys to come meet with a coach or me if you're interested, because it really is helpful. Just if you are feeling like you want to check in with someone for your classes or just talk about how your semester is going, what's going good, what's going bad, or if you just feel like you need some extra support. I honestly was never aware that an office like this even existed on a college campus. So just take advantage of it. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And before we let you go, those listening, next week's topic would be coping with stress during and after the pandemic with Gladys Fuentes from Counseling and Student Development.
Awesome.
Yeah, are we all set, everyone? Thank you, Sam. That was great.
I think it's kind of.
I have a question.
Yeah, Dr. Velodia has her hand up here.
I do. Hi, Sam. Thank you. This was a great presentation. I just have a couple of questions and maybe some food for thought that I can share if we have a couple of minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Dr. Mahoney?
Of course.
Okay, so a couple of things that I think, are super helpful that I wish I had learned when I was your age. I think for me, setting priorities and identifying which ones are really a priority that need to be done now and which ones I can do maybe later on this afternoon or tomorrow, I think is important as a way of like, not everything is urgent. Everything's important, but not everything is urgent. So I think doing a little bit of that. I also think that the asking for help and sometimes delegating, not only from the campuses, or the resources that are on campuses, but oftentimes our families, right? Our friends and what have you. I think that that's really important. And I think putting in time, which is something that I do right now, for exercise, not only as a way, but as a way of like staying sharp. So sometimes I will start writing and then I feel like I'm hitting this wall. I will go for a quick walk and kind of think about what I'm writing and then come back. So I think those kind of things are helpful. And then also digital natives.
Do you mind just turning your mic up a little bit? It's kind of hard to hear.
You can't hear me?
Just a little hard.
Bit.
Okay, I'm gonna try. But the last thing I was gonna say, I'm putting the volume up. Can you hear me? Yeah.
That's slightly better. Maybe if you put up the volume in your computer.
Okay. And that now. The other thing that I was going to suggest was digital natives, right? So what are some really good apps that might be helpful? So a couple are like Evernote, Focus Booster, and I can write these: finish, to do, coach me, remember the milk, which is an interesting one that integrates multiple platforms. And I think sometimes students are really, to your point, having the phone, it's helpful to be able to use an app. There's even an app that will remind you if you need to take a break and go for that walk. So those are some things to kind of think about that I think are helpful.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone. Mr. Silvera, did you want to add anything or no?
No, I just want to thank you for the invitation, and this was very, very productive, very informative. You folks take advantage of it, that's all, right? And a lot of what she's been presenting, it's also up to personal taste as well. Some of you guys would like to do it digitally, some of you guys would like to do it physically, right? With a paper. It's really, one thing I would add to all of this is really try to understand you a little bit better and see what you like to do better. And once you do know how, whether it's here on your phone, plug it in. Plug it in, commit to it. We're done.
Yeah. And I guess I'd also like to suggest, sometimes we need to ask our friends and families, as Dr. Velotti said, for help, not necessarily in understanding a topic, but sometimes in terms of help for scheduling our time, right? I discovered when I was working full-time and working on my master's degree that if I didn't do my schoolwork, if I didn't get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to do my schoolwork for 2 hours before I went to work, I didn't get anything done, because when I got home at 5:30, I was too tired. And so figuring out what our rhythms are, yeah, and especially for students who have children. I have a friend who used to be a professor at Notre Dame who wrote her first book with 2 kids at between 5:30 and 6:30 in the morning, because her husband and children slept until 6:30 or 7 o'clock. And so she got up like 5 days a week and did that kind of consistently. And that's how she managed to get all of her work done. So whether you use a digital reminder or a paper reminder, I think it's really important to figure out your schedule and consider your schoolwork as work, in addition, whether you're also doing paid work or not. Yeah. So anyway, thank you very, very much. Next week, we'll be talking about coping with stress before and after the pandemic. And we'll be posting this on our Facebook page. We have a YouTube page, and also hopefully on our website. So thanks again. See you next week. Bye-bye.